Hey, I'm Shelly.
And I'm Angela.
And this is Real Talk Dating Exposed,
where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of dating in your 40s.
Okay, and on this episode, we are going to talk about hypothetical dating scenarios that may or may not
have
happened to us. May or may not.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're going to start with the first one, and then we're just going to kind of chat through how we feel about it.
Why we hate it, why we hate it, and then maybe, for the men that follow us, like things not to do if you ever thought about doing these things.
But I swear these are hypothetical. All right.
You swear?
Okay. So the first one is like, say you're dating a dude for a couple months.
Uh-huh.
And in the middle of the night, after a couple cocktails, he can't get in touch with you for whatever reason and decides it would be a good idea to let himself into your house. And when I say this, I mean like literally open your garage door that you may or may not have given him the code to at some point. And then you awaken from a deep slumber with someone in your fucking bedroom.
In my bedroom.
How do we feel about that?
I'm having a response in my system at this moment.
Are you having PTSD?
A little. Hypothetically, if this were to have happened. I hate this on so many levels. First, nobody in their right, normal, sane mind should ever just surprise someone at their home.
For sure.
But I don't even think I would drive to someone's house and be like, surprise, I'm out front.
Yeah.
But then to think about, I'm going to drive to someone's home, beep, boop, beep, boop.
And then
walk in and walk into a dark home that's super quiet, let myself into the bedroom. It's all very intrusive, and talk about women wanting to feel safe with the man. Well, that's gone.
For sure.
I mean,
hypothetically,
if I had a gun, it would have been used that night.
Yeah. Well, and then there's all these things, right? And I feel like hypothetically, this was after a couple months. So like, there's a level of safety built there. So like when we're trying to think of the potential man's point of view and like why that would be okay. Number one, we have to assume that the inhibitions are lowered from the alcohol consumption, potentially.
Right.
But more importantly, like, what if we are trying to put ourselves in their shoes? Like, at what point would they think that that was a fucking good idea?
Yeah. I think it goes back to control, where it's like, again, not being able to contact someone. Okay, well, I know where they live. I'm going to go check on them. It wasn't like, oh, this is going to be great and we're going to like surprise someone. No, it was literally everything the opposite of that.
Totally.
And so men.
I mean, how do you feel like it could have been flipped in a way where it's like, because in his hypothetical head, he was surprising you to spend time and like thought it was cutesy. Very cutesy.
But
it was not demure.
I think a text, I'm thinking about you.
Yeah.
Would have been
way better.
Yes.
Or even, hey, I'm outside. I was driving by. At least alerting you if they are going to be in the area and say, hey, I would love to see you for 5 minutes.
Yeah. But maybe if they don't respond, don't go into their house.
The end. Because that could have ended tragically in so many ways.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think of my house like my pit bull.
Yeah.
She's tiny, but then like my gun on my nightstand. I mean, honestly, and then living alone, you're like, what?
Right.
That could have been tragic.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't love that.
No. Okay. Second one.
Oh boy.
So let's say you're dating a guy for a couple months and you're like, okay, let's take it to the next step here and have you move in.
Have talks about moving in.
Talks about moving in, plans about moving in. And then there's a conversation that you have with him that gets your little spidey senses to perk up when he starts talking about his relationship with his mom when she comes into town, and ultimately find out that maybe there have been some sexual encounters there. What do we
hypothetically?
Yes.
Oh,
what do we?
boy.
what do we do in that situation? I mean,
such a loss for words right now. I mean, listen. Number one, we pump the brakes on the move-in.
yes.
Because obviously you're not knowing that person as well as you think maybe you do.
Right.
Right? But I think what it hypothetically brings up in us would be like, okay, there's some deep-rooted trauma shit here that has not been resolved. If there's even any sort of truth to the fact that there could be like familial
Yes.
sexual relations, whether it be in any capacity, I just think it's a little, it's just a lot to digest, right? And I think it's just too much to digest. I mean, how would you feel if you heard someone was?
I would be very concerned. Very concerned for, like you said, the trauma, the unhealed trauma. Is this still happening? What has been done to heal? What has been done? Like, are you still in contact with that family member? I mean, this is a hard no for me. Yeah. This is like, hey, but also goes back to, without being like too hardened, is like, you never really know someone.
For sure.
Right. And it's like, and I think we've talked about that 6-month rule.
Well, this was,
I mean, it was
hypothetically before 6 months.
Before the 6-month period. But I think it's just always asking questions, getting an understanding, asking a question, and then maybe asking like 3 or 4 more follow-up questions. I think relationship with the family is really important. If there isn't relationship, why?
Yeah.
What does that look like? But I don't know that there's anything that we could say, hey, here's some things you could ask to like make sure that you're never in this situation.
I mean, I agree.
I mean, it's very uncommon, I'd like to think, but it's a hard no. It's you need to go talk to a therapist and figure out why this is not normal and do
like work through
years of shit to heal yourself.
Even if you heard it was something that happened in the past and wasn't still occurring.
I just know.
It's a hard,
yeah. I think you need to go figure that out if you haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree.
Anything you want to add to that?
I mean, no, I just think that I get in today's day and age, like there's a lot of, we've had pods on it, right? There's a lot of shit that goes on, whether it be with other people, and you know, it's more common for there to be taboo things that are practiced on a regular. I just think when you're mixing it with like anything related to you in any capacity, it kind of just, it's a hard no at that point.
Yeah, I'm out.
You know what I mean?
I'm out.
Yeah, like I'm fucking out.
Yeah.
So, oh boy. All right.
And just be grateful that you didn't find that out
once you've
moved
commingled.
Them in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Situation number 3. So you've been talking, someone you met on the apps, you've been talking back and forth, banter's good, you have a date set up, and you do your investigative work because
that's what
That's what you do before you go on a date with someone, right? You look them up on socials and you find out that he is following half-naked women, OnlyFans girls, and like interacting, liking, commenting on their shit.
Yeah.
What do we think about that? I know we've talked about it before, but
I mean, is this pre-first date? Do we feel like this is pre-first date, or have we like already gone out with them and then like?
Well, I think you're doing this work, investigative work before,
prior.
Right?
So I mean, I'm always investigating prior.
Yeah, pre-first. And it's like something you have your eye on, and then you go on a first date and you're like, okay, I could see potential here, but then like you still have your eye on that.
Yeah. I mean, I hate all of that. And I just, we've talked about this before. Again, like there's reason, listen, everyone uses their social for different things. I've had someone, we brought this up on another pod, and someone be like, hey, I'm a comedian and like, or I'm a tattoo artist, and like, yeah, there's hot naked chicks that I'm following because at one point they were part of my business. Like, could people justify it away in different capacities based on who their follow list is and vice versa? I mean, yeah. Is it one size fits all? No. However, if you're just like a normal fucking dude and half the chicks you're following are hot chicks that are never going to fucking talk to you in your life. Do you know what I mean? That like don't even live in the same country necessarily, or like 90% of their photos are fucking their asses hanging out or whatever it is. Like then that poses concern to me, being like a 42-year-old woman, that I would be dating someone that is choosing to spend their time on social media
consuming
that.
Yeah.
Like that to me is just like, what? Like, it just goes back to where it's just not alignment. So if we already went out already, and I really felt like there was potential there with this dude, there would be a conversation before I just fucking hard no it. Like, put a hard no on it. But then again, like, I don't know if the conversation, I don't know what could be said in such a way that would make me feel like, okay, that's fine.
I get that now.
Yeah, like, no problem. Keep going and scrolling. Like, I don't know. You know, I just don't, I feel like at this age, like, if you were to go on mine, it's a lot of business and then like self-development and like things that are hobbies to me. But like, is that girl's like tits and ass your hobby? I'm so confused. Like, how do I learn anything about you from that? Or are you just spending your time, which many spend on Insta, too much time on Insta, but like, if that's what you're consuming the whole time, like what?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it gives you and dare we call this like judgmental? Yeah. I mean, we're judging this. Let's just call a spade a spade. We are judging this type of behavior because it gives us like a little peek into who you are as a human.
But the irony is when we talked about this on another pod, on the flip side, men came back with like, well, we know that it's just fantasy. Like, it's just what we consume. I mean, there was so much.
Consume other things. Go consume a weight training program. Like, there's other things, to your point, that I think you can consume and not use it as an excuse. Like, you can do better than that, in my opinion.
Agree. Well, there was some like, I mean, valid, I don't want to say valid points from the men, but like where I was like, okay, I get where you're trying to justify this. Obviously, you're triggered by it.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad, dude. Guys, if you want to do that, it's just, I don't want to date you.
No.
I just prefer not to date someone that's living in that land. And also because it is a trigger from my past.
Right.
There's infidelity that occurred in past relationships.
Yeah.
That started out with that kind of behavior.
Well,
people are going to say again, like, oh, she's unhealed. No, it's fucking not unhealed. It's just, I just prefer not to date someone where I'd have to worry that they're doing that on their Instagram.
Well, and I guess my question to those men that have reached out to us and said, like, trying to justify is, would you be okay with a girl you're dating following half naked men and like consuming that? Is that okay? And if it is, then fucking cool. Go find a girl that. Yeah,
and I feel like there are people. Yeah. Listen, there's a lid for every fucking pot. It's just not my. Yeah. Not my pot. Okay. If you talk to a guy and you found out in his past that you're dating and you really like him and you're more of that like ride or die exclusive kind of old school relationship, which is harder to find in 2025.
Yeah.
But you found out in the past that he did partake in like threesomes and open relationships and that like that was part of his relationships and maybe even shaped the way he looked at relationships. Cause I feel like if that's part of your past, then you're going to maybe potentially look at relationships differently, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that make you feel? Does that affect how you move forward with that human? Does it affect whether or not you even entertain that human?
Again, I think in a situation where I'm dating someone and they tell me that this is part of their past, in the back of my mind, I'm going to always wonder, do you want that? Mm-hmm. Right? It's like, let's say I'm dating a man and he's only ever dated brunettes. And here I come along, like, is that your type? And I'm just like, so I don't love it. Yeah. I don't love it.
Because it's got, but really what you're saying is it makes you start questioning.
Why are you
second guessing?
Yeah. And like, I guess for me, it would be, okay, what did you like about that? What point in your life did you think that was going to be a good solution for your relationship? How did you, there would be so many follow-up questions. Like, how did you feel? Why did you choose to not do that? Is that something you'd want to do in the future? All of these questions, but I don't know. I just can't relate to ever feeling like that would be a good idea. No judgment. It's just what I like, what I don't like versus what they like and don't like. I would have a hard time knowing that the man I'm with also fucked 3 girls at the same time and maybe had a guy watch. Like, I'm just like,
really? I feel like that would less bother me than, and maybe it's my wild 20s. And no, I did not. I've had a couple encounters, but not anything monumental in that capacity. But to me, I'm less like worried if I'm like, oh, if that's something you did in your past, because I feel like we all have a past, right? Maybe mine's just a little bit more muddy than yours in like what I chose to do in my my wild days, but I think I'd be more concerned with like, because if someone's like, hey, that's what, in my 20s I was wild, I did X, Y, and Z, you would feel like
no, we're talking about like we're 40 in his
like in the last
relationship was that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I agree. But you don't think, I don't know. I think it all comes back to have they worked through it? And I think you and I are good at like reading people. So if like if you feel like, hey, yeah, that was part of my past relationship, I realized it really wasn't healthy, I worked through it, and you do believe that, like you wouldn't be able to see past it. You think it's always going to be in the back
I think
of
it
your
would
head.
always be in the back of my mind.
But enough for you to be like, nope, can't date you.
I wouldn't
'cause that's
say
what you-
enough to not date someone, but I would say it would always be in the back of my mind where it's like any inclination or sign that that's where he wanted things to go, then peace. I'm out. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I agree with you on that.
Yeah. All right. So next one, you're dating a guy and a couple dates in, you find out that he has a different religion, different political belief than you. What do you do with that? Like, do you try to work through it? Is this a situation where you're like, okay, we're just going to agree to disagree and not talk about it? Do you look at them differently because they voted for someone else? You know what I mean? Like,
I'm
I don't
gonna
know.
go down that rabbit hole. Oh man. Okay. So to me, politics and religion are
The same.
to me, they're separate.
They're separate. Okay.
So to me, they are. I have less concern with someone's like if they're religious, but they're not pushing it down my throat. I'm fine with that because I'm spiritual. I was raised Catholic. We talked about this before. I'm spiritual now. I have my own beliefs. They shape my core of who I am. If you want to be Jewish or you want to be Christian, I have no problem with you having your own beliefs. Number one, just don't push them down my throat or don't try to change who I am.
Yeah, but do you think that there are some religions out there, and we won't say them,
Yes.
that have really,
Strong.
to our outlook, have a really ridiculous, I'm just going to say it, beliefs? Like where you're just like, you actually believe that?
I mean, yes. So
and is
again,
there a part that you just like, once you know that they're part of that religion and did those things and followed those rules, that you're just like, that changes, to your point, who that person is as a human. Could you ever look past the fact that they did or believe those things?
I mean, again,
or still do.
Yeah, I think it goes back to like, how is it affecting them in this age? How involved are they in this age? How is it showing up in our relationship at this age? I mean, I feel like, yes, your religious beliefs are going to shape you to a degree, right? And yes, if you want to talk extremes, like certain religions where I'd be like, okay, I could see how this probably wouldn't mesh. But like a lot of just more middle ground where people are like, yes, I do go to church on Sundays. And like, I do believe about this, like God is, and there's heaven and hell. And we can go into all these things that I may not necessarily believe in, but I feel like if you have some sort of foundation that's creating who you are, and I feel like spirituality is a big part of my life. So I feel like you got to believe something. And I feel like people that don't believe anything, I have more of a problem with. But I mean, if it's extreme beliefs where I'm like, how the hell did you grow up believing this? And if you're still believing it,
that's a problem.
then I feel like that would be more of a problem for me. I feel like it's not black and white for me when it comes to religion. I feel like politics is very black and white for me. And then we can go into you. I just stand very on one side of a fence of politics. Not that I don't ride a line on a lot of topics, but I do believe that the core of who a person is that I could potentially be dating is a strong believer on the other side. We do not have fucking shit in common. I don't even know how we'd operate in life the same way. I'm sorry. And that may be like hypocritical to be riding the gray line on one and not on the other. But like me, I judge people that ride hard on one side, and sorry, not fucking sorry. I just don't know how, if you wrap your brain around those beliefs and think that our country should be run that way, how we fucking would ever align in life. Like, we're sure as hell never having kids together. Like, to me, like, I'd rather work religion out before politics. It's just not fucking happening.
Yeah.
And I know
I don't know that I have much
to
add, because I feel like politics, like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like, I vote, I know who I like, but it's never a one side. I'm a registered independent. I'm just going to go with whoever I think out of the two candidates can run things. But
if someone wrote
like,
on
we're
side
opposite,
hard,
we're opposite, because I feel the same way
about
you
religion.
do about politics on religion.
Yeah, so
I'm just
you're
like,
hard on, like, you have a hard, yeah.
yeah. So we're flipped, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, I again, if you have this certain belief, and I feel like my experience with religion is, it's very institutionalized. It's based in fear. It's based in shame. It's based, and these again are all of my opinions and my experiences.
So do you want someone not any, what is the ideal man to you then?
Spiritual. Like someone who has morals and beliefs, but like isn't so closed-minded to be like, this is how it has to be. And this is how.
Because I was told this from X. Yeah. What if they don't believe in anything?
I think, I don't know that I've ever interacted with someone who doesn't believe in anything, but my question is like, then I feel like they'd be lacking a purpose. There has to be something bigger.
To a lot of people, there's not though.
Yeah. So it's like, then how do you seek and get answers? You know, because I feel like if you're not doing that, then like, what are we?
Well, then
doing?
Yeah.
All right. Last one, and then we'll wrap this one up. You're dating a guy who claims he's divorced, but he's actually not divorced. He's in the process of getting divorced, and we run.
We fucking run. So I've dealt with this before. Yeah. I don't know. I think on more than one occasion. Number one, if you're setting the tone where I find out you're telling me one thing and it's not that.
Yeah, you're a liar.
Starting on a fucking really bad foot.
Yeah.
But secondly, I feel like close something off before you start something else.
Close, heal, take time to like figure out. I mean, when I was dating, it was the common theme. Like men would get out of a relationship or a marriage of like 20, 30 years and like need to be in something else. And I'm like, fucking pump the brakes, calm down. I will say, let the dust settle, figure out who you are, figure out what you want.
Women are just, I mean, it goes two ways.
Yeah.
Women are just as bad, I think. But I'm just in the land of like, wrap that up. I mean, listen, if it's taking a year, are there exceptions to the rules? Yeah, but like, I don't know. After my divorce, I took a long time, years to kind of like regroup, recalibrate, do what I need to do to see who the fuck I was by myself before I'm adding someone else in. And I know that was a long time ago, but I feel like I just don't love if you're literally not even divorced yet and you're out and about.
Yeah. What void are you trying to fill right now?
Like, take a breather.
What are you hiding from?
No one's dying.
Yeah.
Take a fucking break. Right?
Yes. Again, hypothetical.
Yeah.
May or may not have happened.
Hypothetically. These are all hypotheticals.
Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you're following us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook.
All major platforms.
TikTok. And thanks for listening.